Get off your feet and on the edge of your seat. News and Views is about to begin now. As always, I'd like to welcome you right here to News and Views. I'm your host, Charlie Hale. I'd like to thank you for joining us. Joining me, as always, my three counterparts, Mr. Brian Ireland, dun, 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 and Mr. Kamal Doggett, and Pastor Mark Glenn. Brian, what are we going to do? We just kind of sit here and let them two look stupid, I guess.
Right. They can have it.
Right, as folks, P.O. Box 924, St. Louis, Missouri, 63188. That's News and Views, P.O. Box 924, St. Louis, Missouri, 63188. We want to hear what's on your hearts and minds, and we want to share them right here on News and Views. You can also check us out on Facebook and Twitter, as well as send us an email at newsandviews@knlc.tv, right there on the screen. And once again, our Facebook and Twitter handle right there on the screen. So write that down. We want to hear from you and what's on your hearts and minds. And once again, share it right here on News and Views. Who's going first today?
I guess me. We'll do our. We don't want to switch it up too much. Do our comfort zone.
Stay in the comfort zone.
Stay in the comfort zone.
You got something good today? Or you just got something that's going to waste everybody's time?
No,
right?
I think it's good. Obviously, the biggest story of the last week and a half was the shooting in where was it? In Florida. And Mark is going to get into some specifics about that. But kind of an ancillary issue that has arisen after that shooting is discipline in children, because the shooter had a long history of behavior problems in school, and had also managed to buy these firearms while living with not his parents. I don't think his parents are around, but a friend or somebody had taken him in who he was living with. So some people are obviously, the shooter is the one who's ultimately responsible, but some people have asked, where were the adults in this child's life, not child, but a teenager, where were the adults in his life that it got to this point where not only was he at the point where he could commit a mass murder, but he was also able to stockpile weapons, say these threatening things, and just act in this antisocial way prior to the time that he went and killed all these people. Where were the parents? Why didn't anybody step in and say, we have a problem, contact the authorities, this guy is dangerous, or at least not allow him to purchase all these weapons? And that issue has kind of spread to how much responsibility should parents have for their children. For instance, if you have a child who's in high school who is perpetually tardy or is misbehaving, should parents be responsible for that behavior? Kamal?
Yeah, I think there is a level of responsibility. I think the problem comes in is that most parents don't think that their children would do some type of heinous act like that, even if they do discover some something disturbing about their child. And then at the end of the day, who wants to report their kid to the FBI? I mean, to be realistic, who wants to report their kid to the FBI to perhaps get them in trouble? But yes, I do agree that if you see something disturbing, I think on some levels you ought to step in, and if not necessarily take it to the FBI, let's try to get them some type of counseling. Something we need to notify the school or a council or the local pastor or maybe the local chief of police. Something needs to be notified, because in these cases we are starting to see that this guy, I think he was on the FBI radar.
They had flagged him, and the FBI has come under some criticism for not intervening, because they did have an eye on him. But so do you think, just in general, parents should be punished or have a penalty in some way for the behavior of their kids?
There was talk about that in these cases. I think that there should be punishment if you knew that you had a young man living in your basement or living in your house, 18, 19 years old, he was stockpiling guns,
making threats,
Facebook threats. You saw him now; he's shaving his head off, and all these weird things going on in the last year or so. And then you did not do anything about it. Then yes, I would say yes. But if you unknowingly, if it was kept secret, then that becomes questionable. Should the parents be liable?
I think the problem today is that parents are not parenting. They want to be friends with their children, and it has to be a line of discipline drawn there. The Bible says, "Teach a child the way he will go, and he won't stray far from it." So you have to teach your child early that there are boundaries, right? And this whole thing in this culture today about the value of a human life and what it says. I mean, we're living in St. Louis, the murder capital of the United States, and I think the value, and it's usually with our young people, not always with the old, but the young ones. And I think teaching a parent has a responsibility to teach a child the value of a human life. And the other thing, they need to quit being friends with them, right? If I think you're doing something wrong, I'm going to break into the room. I'm going to open the closet safe or whatever. I'm going to check on you every single time because I want to make sure you're following it right.
Okay, so you're saying they should be legally responsible if they do something. Is that what you're saying? Let's say hypothetically 6th, 7th, or 8th grader shoplifts.
Yeah.
Should the parents have some legal responsibility for the child doing that?
The first time, maybe not. First time, maybe not. Because then the parent is getting a warning like, something's wrong with your child, right? But you ask most parents about their children, what do they say? Oh, they're an angel. You know, they're so beautiful and so perfect. And they never look for a dark side, right? If I'm a parent and I had a child, I'd be looking for that dark side. I'd be looking for that dark side and seeing where there's discrepancies between what they say and what they do. They've all got to match up. So the first time, maybe a warning. The second time, you're legally responsible.
But to me, I think it depends on the crime also, too.
It does.
Because you can't give a warning on something like what this young man did. There's no I mean, quite naturally, he may never see the light of day as far as being on the street. But
I can't believe you guys are thinking that the parents should be held accountable for what their children do to an extent of murder or whatever the case may be. I mean, you can.
If they had knowledge that he was capable, yes.
If they have knowledge that he's capable, they should say something. Yes.
Right.
I'm saying if the parents have no idea their child
Right.
is
Well,
like this or
not.
children are like
Let's
that.
even say if it's less, like I'm saying shoplifting or you don't think?
No,
If
I don't
you're
think so.
raising a
No.
menace to society, isn't that somewhat the parent's responsibility? Your parenting is being so bad that you're unleashing this kid to create havoc.
Maybe
in
your
our
parent, if you're assuming
society.
the parenting is bad. I know parents that are very good people, and their kids just aren't.
Yeah.
You can't. So they can instill good in their kids and tell them what's right and wrong, but they still have the choice to do what they want to do. And if a child's going to go in and steal something, when the parent is a Christian person and has taught their kids the difference between right and wrong, and the child knows what they're doing when they're taking a candy bar or whatever, you cannot hold the parents accountable for
What if
something
they're doing
the
it
child
again
did.
and again?
No,
Like
you
Kamal's
can't.
saying.
It's still a choice that person made. Like if I go in and steal something, I can't blame you for it because you're responsible for me. You're my legal guardian.
As an adult, of course not. But as an
But you're doing the same
impressionable
thing.
5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grader, you're definitely not.
So
an
you're going to
adult.
arrest the parents of the child who stole a candy bar.
You're
and
gonna
then-
pay
Well, I
them
don't know if it's about arrest, but you can't. The courts can mandate
what
that you
can-
pay for counseling. You can't mandate that you supervise them if they go to stores. You can mandate because I've had.
How do you know that the parent may not already be doing that?
With the court, that's what the courts
What
would
else is the
decide.
court's going to give? I mean, there's no penalty for that other than arresting the kid for stealing.
Well, wasn't there something about in St. Louis about if the child is tardy so many times that a fine got to the parent?
Yeah, it's like as a parent, you can make sure your kid gets to school.
Okay, right. So why can't you make sure your kid does other things too that's supposed to be right? It's good for him.
Oh, what do you think of that?
That's totally different. A lot of times the parents are taking the kids to school, and it's their responsibility to get them there because that's the only way the child can get there.
Right.
The child can't drive.
And I'm saying expand that
That's a
responsibility.
different way to look at things. You're
Right.
twisting
We're
it.
not talking about murder. We're not talking about murder. I'm saying
Tardiness, yes. I think the parents need to be responsible
Well,
for the kids at school.
you know, what about
That's something they can
going and
control.
shop?
They can't
What if
control
their
it.
kid's
What about going
what
to-
if their kid is
Stealing something.
bullying other kids at school?
Well, yes, a parent can talk to their kids
Right.
about that.
What about shoplifting? They're going to Save a Lot and they're stealing food and putting it in their
the child's
backpack.
going to be in trouble for that.
All right. And the parent.
The the parents not going to get
Gets off scot-free?
What's we going to do? Arrest the parent for their child stealing?
No, I
The
never said
parents
arrest.
going to have to pay the fines.
I never said
to
arrest.
attorneys and that.
I said fines are a good way to
Parents
start
already
out.
getting bashed in the pocketbook.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. What do you think, folks? You're watching News and Views. We'll be right back.
52 years ago, a crowd of onlookers saw a 21-year-old African-American man and his mother being arrested by the California Highway Patrol, thus precipitating the Watts riots and eventually Black Lives Matter. A patrolman struck a man named Fry on the head with a baton, knocking him unconscious, and the gathering crowd saw police brutality. The police sealed off most of South Central Los Angeles. It took some 3,900 National Guardsmen to quell the 6 days of unrest. The riot claimed 34 deaths and more than 1,000 injuries. Millions of property damage was sustained, and it went on. While much has changed since the Watts riot, surprising, there is a sobering distinction between the traffic stop in 1965 and current day cases in the news, such as Walter Scott in North Carolina, Michael Brown here in Ferguson, Missouri, and Eric Garner in Staten Island, New York, and others whose cases have made headlines. That's what we mean about Black Lives Matter, and that's our history lesson for today.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, you're watching News and Views. We just heard from Brian Ireland. This time we'll turn it over to Kamal Dockett.
Yes, I went to go last weekend. Went to go see the Black Panther. It was a Marvel. Yeah, it was a
That's
Marvel.
the Pink Panther.
Now you're thinking about the Pink Panther. This was the Black Panther, a character out of the Marvel comic books that they brought to the big screen, and it was expected to make over $200 million the opening weekend last week, and it did. It hit at $192 million. And but I guess what I wanted to talk about, many people know about the movie. They've seen all the previews of it, and many people went out to go see it. But one of the problems with the movie was that a lot of people were creating online fictitious stuff about the movie. They were saying that fights were breaking out at the movies. They were saying don't go see the movie, and it's racist, and it was just a whole lot of things going on about the movies that when people was actually creating fake reviews about the movie, saying that the movie was not even that good.
What's the movie about?
Well, it's about a fictitious country called Wakanda in Africa that has a metal called vibranium in the heart of the country, and it's supposed to be the most strongest and resourceful source of energy and metal in the world. And this one guy named he's called the Black Panther, but his real name is T'Challa, where he's now appointed king of this country because in the previous movie, Captain America, his father was killed. And then people start rising up to try to take his position, and then they want to actually use the vibranium to take over the world. But it was a very good movie, all-star African-American cast. The director was African-American. But what happened was that people started trying to say we need to ban this movie, boycott it, because the star actor, he dates white women. And, it was just a whole lot of host of things that they were trying to, controversy. And I said, man, at the end of the day, it's just an action movie.
So as far as the, do you know as far as the fake reviews that were being posted, or people who are writing these negative reviews and making it go viral, right, these negative reviews, do you think those were people who was based in racism, or was it other studios? Was it a film competition of other
I would
studios
hate to think that.
who were like, we don't want this movie to make money? Or was it something that was like a racist thing where it's like, since this is a quote-unquote black movie, let's try to sabotage
Well, many people think it was
what theory
racist.
is that?
Many people think it was racist because, like, the movie, when I went to go see over at the AMC Esquire, people had, like, dashikis on. One guy had, like, a fake-looking spirit that he brought in. So it was very apparent that a lot of African-Americans that typically wouldn't even go to Marvel movies came out, and that's why the movie had this overwhelming success. They paid the studio paid $200 million for the movie. Now there has only been a few movies that have been that you spend that type of budget on. $200 million, because you got
That's a lot
to
of
think
money.
you got to recoup that money. And the studio was only projecting to make $170 million opening weekend, and then they would recoup the other $30 million in days and weeks to come. They hit it at $192 million. And the reason why this was so profound, or they had to hit that figure, the follow-up movie that's coming out in a couple of months called the Avengers Infinity Wars is the first $1 billion movie. The studio's spending $1 billion up to
First $1 billion movie ever of all time.
there has never even been $200 million movie. There's only been a few. I'm talking about to make the movie.
No, yeah, but there have been other like quote unquote movies with a predominantly black cast. They weren't this type of movie.
It wasn't this type of movie.
What was it? Do you think about this movie? That has
Because
made
it would
people
be.
try to
I think because
sabotage it?
of the level, because this was the first, perhaps, blockbuster African American movie. There has been Oprah movies and Tyler
Right.
Perry's,
The Best
but they're
Man,
not black.
stuff like that.
They're not blockbuster like
How much was spent on this movie?
$200 million.
That's the most ever?
Well, the most ever was Captain America: Civil War, which they spent $225 million. Most movies don't have that type of budgets. I mean, a blockbuster movie has like 20, 30, maybe $50 million. So you can see how much more that they're spending on these movies that other studios haven't even tapped into.
You wonder where
those
they're
type
getting
of
this
movies.
money, this kind of funding to do these movies. That's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money, but you can imagine the next movie, they're talking about nearly $1 billion.
Is there a lot of effects in it? Is there a lot of like...
This one had the reason why it
lot of
cost so
stuff?
much is because they had to create a computer generated country. It's called Wakanda,
Okay.
and it had and then on the surface the country looks poor, and then when he drives his ship into this mountain, then this whole other country opens up that has hyper trains that's being controlled by sound.
They're supposed to be technology advanced countries that nobody knows about.
That nobody knows about.
Now, let me say something
Right.
about this viral thing, right? How many times have you heard somebody say, "Don't see that movie" and "Don't read that book"? And all of a sudden, it goes up in sales, right? So those who are probably saying, "Don't see it as
Negative
racist,"
publicity.
right? More publicity.
Because the studio
right?
did.
Negative
Because the
publicity.
studio created the negative.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? To
Right.
create, because maybe they thinking that it would create the opposite effect and make people want to go see the movie. So I don't know, but it was a lot of controversy behind the movie as far as not the movie itself, but they were just saying that don't go see the movie, this, that, and the other. But they had,
white people are being attacked at the movie.
right, it was a lot of it just where's these reviews coming
all
from?
garbage.
And then they were saying that
fake news.
people were overly dressing up for the movie with African garbs. But when previous movies like Batman came out, people was dressing up as the Joker.
Why would it bother them that they were in African garbs like these things?
Right, that's what I'm talking about. It didn't make any sense. Why can't if a person wants to dress up in African garbs and go to a movie, well, that's their choice. Yeah. You know, they're not coming in there butt naked with a real spirit. Yeah. Right.
Mark, are you a movie person?
Yes, I am.
Did you see this movie?
I did not see the movie, but I'm a fan of the comic book. I remember being a young little boy and reading the Black Panther comic books. So it goes way back.
And it had an all-star cast in it. I mean, Forrest Whitaker was in it. Okay. You had Angela Bassett, who was in it. And then you had a lot of up-and-coming stars in it, too.
Kamal Docker was in that one, I believe.
I wish I was. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? The
He wouldn't be sitting here with us.
Black Panther Jr. But I wish I would. But it really had a really good, and I want to encourage people to act. It was an actually good movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
how was the action in
it? It was action-packed. Okay. The storyline was excellent. But the greatest thing is that this was one of the greatest computer-generated movies of our time.
Wow.
Because
still at the movies?
Yeah, it just came. It's just the second weekend. So a movie
this is
like
two
that,
of three Avenger movies?
Well, this is a spin-off of the Avengers movie.
So you could go see this one if you didn't see the first one.
I would suggest you see at least Captain America Civil War, because that's when they introduced Black Panther in that movie, and that was about a year or two ago. Gotcha. And then this is the follow-up where Black Panther gets his own movie, and then this is the movie that they're introducing you into the Avengers Affinity Wars.
Gotcha.
So it's a lot, but
they all kind of tie in.
I'm not really into all that, so it's kind of like
I've been
watching
watching
to you. I don't get into all that.
It's all Greek to me.
It's all Greek.
It's all good.
Watching news and views. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You just tuned in. You're watching News and Views. We just heard from Kamal Dockett. This time we go to Pastor Mark Glenn. You can talk about a little bit more about the shooting, but you're going to kind of get into it a little bit deeper about a possible second shooter.
Yep.
It's a conspiracy theory at this point, but you have an idea that they might be able to prove this, possibly?
Right. Possibly. I think that from time to time we shoot News and Views go into what I call the alternative news, what some people call news.
Some people call fake news.
Right,
Some people call fake news.
We have no fake news on News and Views, by the way.
We talk about it.
Right.
We bring it to you like it is.
Right. We bring you the truth. Okay. So this is what happened. Students dove under desks. Teachers barricaded classrooms as a gunman, Nicholas Cruz, killed 17 at Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. We know that there's been 39 tips to the FBI regarding this young man. And some would say, another conspiracy thought, that the reason why the FBI could not really investigate this was because they were too busy investigating the Russia collusion link between Donald Trump. Let's go now to a person who's in the high school who says there were two shooters.
My guest now is Jalen Martin, a senior at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. We were talking about last night's vigil with him in the last segment. But, Jalen, I want to get more into the conversations you had with your fellow students that were in the building that now they are saying they're going to tear it down, the building where the shooting happened. And you're saying that multiple students that you spoke with think there was a second shooter.
Yeah. So they're going to be tearing down the building. Yesterday when I was at the vigil, several people told me that was probably going to happen. So I'm not really that surprised to see it. But yeah, I talked to several people yesterday who were in that building. We call it the freshman building. It's the 1200 building. And they were telling me, like, for example, one of the people, he was on the first floor, and he heard like some loud sort of explosion sound. It turns out it was gunshot. They just said that there weren't any smoke bombs. That's why yesterday when I was on, I said I didn't hear too much about smoke, but I heard something about like smoke or a hazy, kind of look. And no one saw a gas mask. They just said that it was a balaclava. Yeah, so I talked to him. He said that he heard, a loud bang sound. And at first he didn't know what it was. Turns out, it was a gunshot. And then he heard a jiggle on the knob, and then someone said, "Go to the next one."
And this was on the first floor.
Second. Yes, this was on the first floor.
And the reports are that most of the shooting or the carnage happened on the third floor. Is that correct?
I don't know, but I did talk to someone who was on the third floor, and they also said that they think it was a second shooter. The host, she also did see him for a split second. She didn't, get to look at him. She, on my channel, you can see she was the one who said that she was picked up and thrown into the classroom to get out of the way. And a lot of people that I talked to were they were pretty convinced that it was a second shooter.
Yeah, and obviously,
I don't know when they focusing the security camera footage, because like I said earlier, there are lots of cameras in that building. I think I counted there's 12 cameras in that building. And the building has 3 floors, 1 hallway on each floor.
And so obviously, if there was a second shooter, they would know that because they have the video footage, which I doubt they'll show anyone.
Okay, so in the video, Jaden talks about how there were 2 shooters, one on the first floor, one on the third floor. He talks about a doorknob being squeezed and somebody saying, "Go to the next one." And so we wonder how it's possible for an investigation of this to be done and we not know the second shooter. The other one in Vegas, somebody says there's also a conspiracy theory there's a second shooter there too. Okay, so what's going to happen now? Here we have another mass shooting again, and as soon as somebody says, no more guns, or let's rein in the NRA, or let's make some new laws for it, they say, oh, but it's too early to politicize it. And we don't do a darn, and I mean darn in a nice way, darn thing about it. They're saying it's going to happen again, it's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again. want to get the panel's opinion about the second shooter theory, and also what should we do
Everybody's laughing.
about the gun laws in America.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch the second shooter theory, but it was so funny. But we know that
You obviously don't believe that do you? It's one shooter.
it's none of the primary CNN, none of them are reporting this.
Right, but
CNN's fake news.
This is
According to Trump, CNN's fake news.
Right. But still, we have to rely on Fox or CNN at the end of the day.
Well, but some people don't. Some people look at InfoWars all day long.
Yeah, but you
it
can't
comes
do
on.
that. You got to watch a multitude.
I know a guy that does
you
that.
got to watch 2 or 3 different type of news sources for it to be credible. But I mean, for real,
you're right.
But the whole thing is that we do hear this. I don't know what actually can be done, because the problem is that politically wise, the NRA is so big and they're lining so many politicians' pockets. Mm-hmm. You're not going to go up against an entity like that, and they're probably one of the top 2 or 3 lobbyists in the United States.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So what you gonna do? How they look if I'm a congressman or a representative and they didn't gave me 100,000, 200,000 in my last campaign? I can't say nothing against guns.
I agree. What do you think?
I don't know what can be done. They're talking about raising the age limit is one thing.
We've said it before, and I've debated before. I always say there needs to be teachers with guns. You guys always say I'm crazy. These people.
What
these
about bulletproof backpacks?
People, I don't know about the bulletproof backpacks, but these cowardly shooters would not go into these schools, I don't think, if they knew that there was going to be return fire, that there was going to be resistance. Everybody in there is a sitting duck. I think you need to have armed guards or unarmed teachers. You don't see these people going into the police station and shooting, or a gun range and shooting, because they know they're going to be met with return fire. Charlie, what do you think?
But couldn't the teachers themselves now become the shooters themselves, or
You
just
train
run
at
those
least 1 or
teachers?
2.
Yeah, they could start shooting the kids.
That's not gonna
You're not
happen.
listening to me?
No.
I used to get set in the corner when I was bad. Now you're going to get shot.
If you start
Proper
putting
training.
guns in schools,
Yes, put them in, because they know that there's nobody in there has a gun. So it's just target
wouldn't it be
practice until
better-
the police get
Brian's
there.
got a small point. I mean, you think
but
about
wouldn't it be
I've been
better to
saying
put
this-
a trained security guard?
they
on
have
these
those.
campuses?
They have those, but
So-
it doesn't work at schools. It just doesn't work.
Well, where are the security guards at these?
A lot of times you have
moments?
1 police officer, maybe 2. That's
Yeah,
it.
right,
They're not
probably,
going
that's
to
right.
they're not
Or at the
going to be
high
at every
schools.
door. They can't be at every door. By the time the police officer gets there, they've already shot up the place.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, as far as campus-wide security, I don't see how arming 1 or 2 teachers are going to make a difference
I think
to
it
me.
would.
1 or 2 teachers, you arm them all.
But I think you're going too far with that.
Why?
I
know
If
about
I
all
tell you,
I think that's going
well,
too
he's got,
far.
well, he's got. Well, you can arm some of them. The
can arm
the
some
shooter
of
would
them.
never know which one's armed and which
Well,
one's
I
not.
think nobody should know except the principal and those 2 or 3 teachers.
Right.
Because if you think about the states that have the gun laws where you can actually carry the gun on your
Right.
side and everybody knows, like Arizona, for instance,
Yeah, Texas, right.
their crime rate is down to zilch. Because when that guy that wants to carry that gun, he wants to rob you or he wants to try to assault you or scare you, he knows there's a chance, by God, that guy might have a gun too.
Right.
When you get met with a gun and you have a gun, you're less likely to pull the one you have. So if your teachers have guns, and I know when Brian's talking about this, I disagreed with him, but the more I think about it, I think it's probably a good idea that they start arming some of the teachers. But they have to go through training just like a police officer would, or they have to know when to pull
But is
it.
that the solution? I mean, because
I don't think it's a solution. I think it's going to
Do
be
you think
helpful.
the
'Cause at the end
assault
of-
rifle should be allowed or no?
by the teachers.
No, just in general.
I'm like, nah, you really
We gotta
going
go.
too
We
far.
gotta go, guys. We're out of time.
Oh, we didn't
Assault
even get to
rifle.
the.
I know. We're getting to the meat and potatoes.
I know. We got
From
maybe
Pastor Mark
revisit it.
Glenn, Kamal Dockett, Brian Ireland, and myself, Charlie Hill. We'll catch you right back here next time on News and Views. Thank you for joining us.